The MLB trade deadline has now passed, as ESPO and I will review quite possibly the wildest trade deadline ever by giving our grades for every team's performance by this past Friday's deadline. It was a wild one, ESPO. From Baez to Gallo to Scherzer to Bryant. The past week in trades was unbelievable. We'll discuss it all tonight. Plus, ESPO has his pick of the day, as always. And we debut a new segment, Diamonds in the Rough, for all you LB The Show Diamond Dynasty players, all tonight and more on Leading Off. And once again, we are live. This is the 19th episode of Leading Off, live from Studio 69 in New Jersey and REM Studio in Staten Island, New York, airing exclusively on Twitch and powered by StreamYard. And welcome back to the show on this Monday, August the 2nd, 2021. I'm your host, Rich Rivera, and I'm being joined by a soon-to-be owner of a Javier Baez jersey, ESPO.
Rich, you never fail to amaze me with your introductions, but gonna have to disagree with you there because every Mets jersey I buy, it curses the player. So there'll be no jersey purchases in my future.
Oh, almost like the dreaded ESPO pick of the day. It always is the curse for whoever ESPO is trying to support.
Kicking me while I'm down.
Kicking them while you're down. You know, actually, not gonna lie, I have the same curse with my jerseys, sports jerseys all together. No matter who I got, they were signed by another team the next off season, or traded, or had a horrible season. It never worked out. So I started buying jerseys of retired players because I don't know how to
get hurt there.
Retired players. Unless
they start dying, then you'd really be hurt.
That's awful. That's morbid as fuck, man. That's terrible.
Maybe they're already dead. Okay.
Well, anyways. There's like no way to screw that up. All right, I guess. Whatever. Let's get off that.
Moving on.
Out of hand. So,
out of pocket.
Good to see you, pal. We had a wild MLB trade deadline over the past week. Obviously, we're going to review that. We got our little report cards. We're acting like professors here. We got report cards for all the teams in baseball that we're going to reveal in a little bit on tonight's show. It's going to be a lot of fun. But yes, so ESPO off the rip. This MLB trade deadline, wildest ever.
Oh my goodness, without question, and it's not even close. I mean, it was an exhausting day. Just refreshing Twitter and MLB trade rumors, and especially as a Mets fan, it was exhausting. As a Yankees fan, you had your excitement earlier in the week with the Gallo and Rizzo deals, which were amazing for you guys. But as a Mets fan, I definitely like the Javi Baez move. You got to be aggressive. You're in first place. It's a win now team, built to win now. They did have a pitching prospect that they no longer have, but we're not going to get into that. We're talking about the trade deadline. So, I like the moves for the New York teams, but man, how about those Chicago Cubs? I mean, rip the 2016 champions who we thought were going to be a dynasty, and they just they tore it apart.
And to the credit also to the Washington Nationals, which funny enough played each other after this trade deadline happened. Right. It was very weird. It was like a who's who of players taking the field because these fans came down. They were like, who the fuck are these guys? But yes, I think that's the sacrifice you have to be willing to make, though. The Nationals and the Cubs both. 2016 World Series champion Cubs, 2019 World Series champion Washington Nationals. The trade-off, you might not have a great future moving forward unless you develop these guys correctly. Now, you saw some sustainable success with the Giants for years and for the Yankees back in the 90s, even for the Red Sox within the last 20 years that keep finding ways to fall and then rise to the top once again. Look what they're doing now. This team wasn't projected to do much, and the Red Sox are still towards the top of the American League East division and the favorite to probably be in the World Series this year on the American League side. So,
whoa. Slow your roll there, kid. The White Sox exist.
Well, the White Sox do exist. I'm just saying, Red Sox are a favorite, and not the favorite. We'll a favorite. But yes, we'll get into our deadline grades and more.
Speaking of the White Sox, though, Richard, yes. They were not quiet themselves this deadline. I think we got to give them some credit. They made a couple under the radar moves, getting the likes of Cesar Hernandez, but Craig Kimbrell is a move that come October we might be looking back and say that, wow, this was the move that put them over the top. But
revamped the bullpen that was already really fucking good to begin with separate moves with the Cubs, Craig Kimbrell and Ryan Tepera, who's having a very underrated season for Chicago.
That's who else they got. Name was escaping me.
So yes, a couple of good moves for the White Sox. Nothing over the top and crazy, but when you have Kimbrell and Hendricks at the back end of that at the back end, I was going to say rotation, back end of that bullpen, you got to be happy. We'll get into that and more a little later on the show tonight. Hey, make sure to follow us on YouTube or subscribe to us rather. Our episodes are being uploaded. I'm starting to get those episodes that were not there on the page now. So over the next few days, you'll start to see some of the older episodes of Leading Off on our YouTube page. So make sure to like, share, and subscribe. But let's get into it, ESPO, with Ducks in the Pond, which is always our start of the show because our bases are loaded filled with news and notes of the baseball world. And we start everything off with injuries and a pretty big one in baseball. Fernando Tatis Jr. landing on the 10-day IL with left shoulder inflammation that you hope is not too serious. You hope a guy like this kid just missed the minimum and get back into it because obviously this is a big loss of the Padres, who, in my opinion, didn't have the best trade deadline. They made a big move for Adam Frazier and a couple other smaller moves, but they didn't land a big fish. They thought we were going to get Max Scherzer, and now they lost out on the Scherzer trade and their star shortstop for a little bit of time.
Listen, man, the Padres, as talented as they are, they're in some trouble right now. I don't think that the NL West is going to have I'm sorry. I totally messed up that sentence. I don't think the Padres have a chance in the NL West anymore because the Giants and the Dodgers, I think they're running away with it. And with Tatis going down, the margin for error just got that much slimmer for this Padre team. And I'm not just worried about the West Division for the Padres anymore. I'm looking at the wild card, and don't sleep on these Cincinnati Reds, man. Only 4 back. They could make a run. Cardinals 6.5 back. Mm-hmm. They're not dead just yet. So Padres, they have some work to do if they want to make it to October. So
yeah, and it's definitely no discredit to those other teams. I think most people in baseball, I'm sure, including yourself, think, hey, that NL West wild card is going to feature 2 NL West teams. That's how great that division's been. The Wild Wild West certainly back in baseball. Fernando Tatis Jr., we hope that he's back real soon, just for the great, for the game itself. Obviously, he's a great player for the game, a face of the game. He's a face of MLB The Show 21, which is another thing we'll get into later on tonight in my new segment. But yes, Tatis on the mend. Also, Domingo Germán, a similar injury, shoulder inflammation of the right shoulder. Tyler Glasnow, who we pretty much ruled out for the rest of the season. It's official. He is undergoing Tommy John surgery to repair the ulnar collateral ligament that he tore in his right elbow. So unfortunate loss for the Rays. I actually heard a rumor today that the Rays had a possible trade talks with the Cubs involving Tyler Glasnow. And it could have been a move that might have brought in both Craig Kimbrell and Chris Bryant. It goes to show that their attitude is win now, which is not really been the Rays' attitude for years. It's been pretty status quo. But the fact that they were ready to be that aggressive on those moves and weren't, I mean, it goes to show maybe the Rays are going to try to turn the tide and actually try to win this thing.
So they were willing to trade an injured Glasnow, is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean, talk about ballsy, your ace and one of your franchise cornerstones, but then again, it's the Rays we're talking about. So you really can just never count them out in any trade. But as a Yankee fan, you're probably happy they didn't pull it off. But losing Glasnow for the year, despite the Rays' tremendous depth, it's a bad blow for them. I mean, they do have a lot of guys in the rotation that can eat innings, but none of them are ace quality like Glasnow is. So I think they will probably make the playoffs, but without Glasnow, I just don't see them making a run.
It's going to be a tough call. Obviously, the Rays keep winning games. They keep topping the Red Sox. They're at now they're in first place in the American League East. So, like I said, and you said it yourself too, you can never count out the Rays. So we'll see what happens.
It's very true.
as this season continues and we are towards the end now in August, unbelievably enough. I remember starting the show back in March, Espo. Now it's August 2nd.
The dog days of summer, man. They are here.
Days of summer. All right. Well, let's get into some Mets here. We're going to talk about Kumar Rocker. We're trying to not talk about trade deadline stuff because obviously we have a whole segment on it later. So non-trade deadline news comes so few, but this one was a big one. Kumar Rocker and the Mets not coming to terms on a contract. Rocker was selected 10th overall in this draft. And, of course, Rocker dealing with some injuries as Espo takes the elevator down to I don't know where he takes it down to, but maybe he'll meet
just
Kumar
saying
Rocker
his name.
But Mr. Rocker will not be a New York Met. He will not be anybody because he's not going to sign. So very crazy thing happening in Queens when Met fans were extremely happy that Rocker was essentially stolen at the 10th spot. But what is your reaction, Mr. Espo?
My reaction was, if something's too good to be true, it usually is.
It usually is.
And unfortunately, that was the case with Mr. Rocker. We will not be seeing him in a Mets uniform. Not this year, not next year, not ever, it seems.
Never.
I mean, it was just a failure on the part of the Mets to not properly review the medical situation more thoroughly, because from what I'm hearing, it seems like, while there are concerns about this year, I think long-term the outlook on Rocker seems to be just fine. But then again, that's just one man's opinion. Mm-hmm. So I just have a hard time taking the Mets at their word when it comes to players and injuries.
Yes,
they have a checkered history when it comes to that. So as a fan, it just really sucks because we thought like we got a steal with that draft pick, and obviously everyone knows the potential that Rocker brings to the table. Mm-hmm. I thought it was going to be very cool to see an Indian American pitcher work his way through the ranks and kind of become a star, and having him on our team would have been really cool to see that. And now it's not going to happen. So it just sucks, man.
And you kind of wonder how much of a shoulder shrug it was to the Mets of like, we kind of knew but didn't know. Or more of it was like, hey, like if this guy's hurt, we know how what he was touted to be. Let's just take a chance, draft him at the number 10 spot and see what happens. And if the injury is too much, then we're going to have to not go with it. And Kumar Rocker refused to release the medical reports to the team. So unfortunately, these things happen, Right. Another special pitcher that not necessarily more injury, but didn't sign with the team and ended up with that team for a lot of money down the line. Garrett Cole, who was originally drafted by the Yankees, which I believe was in 2007
or 8, maybe
something like that. I don't know. It was early 2010s, late 2000s. Drafted by the Yankees originally, didn't sign, ended up getting drafted number 1 overall to the Pirates, and then the rest is history. So you never know.
You're saying the Yankees could have saved $300 million if they just had signed him out of school.
Signed him the first time. But these things happen. It is unfortunate, and you hope that Kumar finds his way to the show.
I hope he does, and I hope he thrives. But I pray to the baseball gods that it is not in the NL East, because if it is, then I don't know what I'm going to do, man. No. I've suffered enough.
Maybe he will rejoin his Vanderbilt brother Jack Leiter over in Texas.
Oh, you know what? That would be nice. I think that would be a neutral outcome for all parties.
Yes, absolutely. And our last bit, because you usually do 3 notes here, but this is not really a baseball note. I mean, it is a baseball note, technically. But it actually has to do with our show. Next week's episode of Leading Off will not air live. It will actually be in 2 weeks' time. So that's episode number 20, the big 2-0, Espo. August 16th now won't be on the schedule August 9th. So next week we're going to be off. So there will be no live edition of Leading Off next Monday. Our next episode will be episode number 20 on August the 16th. So mark that down in your calendars. And that's our Ducks on the Pond. But make sure to follow us on Twitter at LOF Podcast for the latest news regarding the pod. You can follow Espo at
The Life of Espo.
And you can follow me at Rich J. Rivera. All right, Espo. You know what time it is, bud. Yeah. It's time for redemption once again. It is the Espo pick of the day, the ESPO TD, the Espo TD. But Espo just wants to call this one a win. So, Espo, take it away.
Man, the ESPO has been an automatic L these last few weeks. So I'm sorry to all the gamblers out there that have been tailing my picks. I hope you haven't.
I hope you have it. Yeah.
I hope you've been betting the opposite. So in the spirit of that, in the spirit of me not knowing what the hell I'm doing when it comes to picking winning picks, I was looking down the lines on DraftKings and I saw Mets Marlins over 7.5, and I like to mix business with pleasure, so I'm gonna ride with the over on this. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why, because I think the under is actually going to hit. So I'm going to fade myself and bet the exact opposite. No, in actuality, though, I do actually think the over will hit because Tyler McGill is as great as he's been for the Mets. He's got to come back down to earth sometime. I hope I'm wrong, but once again, mixing business with pleasure. And Jesus Luzardo making his Marlins debut. If you've watched any Jesus Luzardo on the Oakland Athletics this year, or have had him in fantasy, just how god awful he's been. Mm-hmm. So maybe these pitchers are going to blow up. Maybe they're going to throw 7 shutout innings, but I'll take my chances with the over.
All right, there you have it. ESPO taking the over.
7.5.
Mets. You said 7.5 is the number?
We need 8. So
you need 8. All right. So we need like a nice 5-3 final for ESPO's sake. We'll see what happens. So
8-0 Mets. That's the best case scenario.
8-0 Mets. Yes, absolutely. Actually, fun fact: I picked up Jesus Luzardo today for my fantasy team just to see how he do against the Marlins. Picked him up after games already started, so it won't even count. So good job, Rich. Wasted a pick. So I had a horrible pick of the day, but let's see if ESPO has a horrible pick of the day. But that is the ESPO TD. I said it right for the first time. Quick, look at that. I'm finally catching on. Very good. All right, let's move on to the deadline. Of course, we've been covering the deadline ad nauseum over the last few weeks, but why not? We should. And we probably wouldn't have mentioned the deadline today if it wasn't for the fact that the deadline this past week was probably the craziest in the history of the deadline. So we're going to get into it. As I mentioned before, me and ESPO are going to put on our teacher's hats here, and we're going to grade every team's performance at the trade deadline. So all 30, we're not including anybody. Everybody stated. Maybe we'll make a few notes here and there. But ESPO, let's kick this off with the American League. So I'm going to drop all this stuff. We're going to really strip our show down here so I can show you this graphic. With our American League teams. Yes, sir. And those are our picks, or those are not our picks. Those are our grades for each of those teams. So ESPO, we'll start with you. We'll pick out a couple here. But let's go with the Twins. You got the Twins. It's funny with the White Sox and the Twins and how far they are in their own division. But both of them get A's at the deadline. Why did the Twins get an A on your side?
The Twins get an A for one reason and one reason alone, and that is the return they got in the Jose Barrios trade. I mean, talk about a haul for a pitcher who, maybe this is a hot take, maybe it's not. I don't think he's that good. The numbers just don't impress me. I mean, yeah, he had a nice debut last night with Toronto, but I just don't see this guy as a frontline ace. And maybe I'll be wrong this October, but I'm just not sure if the Blue Jays if they're going to end up regretting that deal or not. But again, we're talking about the Twins here, so I love the return they got with Austin Martin, who was a top pick of the Blue Jays last year. Simeon Woods Richardson is another great prospect that I think has a chance to be a real good arm in the majors. So I just really love that return for Minnesota, and I don't think they're contending anytime soon, despite what they may say. So I think all things considered, they're one of the winners of the deadline.
And a high grade for the Twins definitely justified. Simeon Woods Richardson, Austin Martin in the deal to Jose Barrios. The Twins weren't joking when they said it was going to be a high price for Barrios. Again, as you mentioned, overrated, I think was the word you used, or more of like not as good as many think. Barrios, I agree with you. I don't think he's as good as I guess as scouts want to say they are. Or
he's had his moments, no doubt. He's shown his potential.
Darling, some would say, but he hasn't had that standout season yet where you're like, damn, like this is the guy. Like Barrios should have been the Twins ace for years, and then Kenta Maeda came on the scene and took that spot from him.
And this is the AL Central we're talking about here too. Notoriously one of the weakest divisions in baseball. and now he's moving to the hard-hitting AL East. So we'll see.
Granted,
I mean,
he had a good
maybe
start. He had a good debut start with Toronto.
maybe we'll be dead wrong, but
I think he went 6, struck out 7, if I'm not
right.
mistaken. But Barrios had a good debut for them. So, but no, good on the Twins for making that sort of move. Let's look back at the chart again for other American League teams I wanted to pick out here. I guess we can stay home here. You gave the Yankees an A. I gave him a B plus, obviously, because you tell Espo very solid on his A through F grade. I had some pluses and minuses in there. But overall, Yankees had a good trade deadline for a team that I have said multiple times in this show and Savages in the Bronx that should have done nothing. I think for the most part, and again, I'll talk more about this on Savages. I don't want to get into it because we still got National League teams to cover. I was happy with what the Yankees did, considering that they didn't give up so much to try to compete this year, but also help them for 2022, which I think is more important. Joey Gallo is going to be a guy you have for the next season. Andrew Heaney, I believe you have for the next season as well, if I'm not mistaken. It's this Anthony Rizzo, rental that's going to see if the Yankees want to, maybe give Rizzo a minimum contract for the next season, or if they're going to, figure out what's going to happen with Gleyber Torres and move Gleyber Torres out of shortstop, and then LeMahieu's most likely your first baseman for next season. Love the Rizzo move. Love the lefty. Love the leadership. Big Anthony Rizzo fan. Always been an Anthony Rizzo fan. Yes, you gave up 2 higher prospects, but as my co-host on Savage in the Bronx also said, these top 30, these big lists are done before the season, and, there's no adjustment midseason on some of these prospect lists. So maybe these prospects that you gave up aren't as high as they once were at the beginning of the season. Maybe they're lower, maybe they're higher. Doesn't know. We don't really know. We just know the guys that we hear of all the time. For the Yankees, it's always Jason Dominguez and Luis Gil and Estevan Florial. Like, those are the big guys.
Clark Schmidt,
who was rumored to go in that Joey Gallo deal and didn't end up going in that deal. So I thought the Yankees did a decent job. I don't think they gave up too much for what they got. I think the one knock you can give is like, well, you still brought in some all or nothing players, which has been basically the Yankees' formula of offense over the last few years. You didn't bring any like game-changing sort of players there that could really change up the method of approach for this team. You have now just a lineup full of potential of 5+ home runs or 20 strikeouts. So it's a very weird team put together, but love that they had the lefties, love the leadership, love the flexibility with Gallo. I think they did a good job. So A, B+ range. I think that's fair.
Hey, as an Italian, it gets an A++ from me.
Italians very happy with the trade deadline. Any other American League team, Espo, you want to pick on before we go?
Yeah, one I want to touch on. I gotta show some love. Actually, no, I'm not gonna show love. I'm gonna show some hate to the Seattle Mariners. There's a glaring F right there. And they made some interesting moves. They made a mixture of buying and selling, but man, I just hated that Kendall Graveman trade to Houston. I mean, what the hell are you doing trading with your division rival in the middle of a pennant race? I mean, given you're probably not going to win the division, you're 6 or 7 games back, I think, but wild card still very much in play for the Mariners. So for them to trade their closer, who's having an amazing year, Kendall Graveman, I think a sub-1 ERA to your division rival, who, oh, by the way, their biggest weakness was bullpen. It just baffles me. And then they go around and trade for Diego Castillo. So okay, now you have a closer, but it's just like, what was the point of making those moves? You didn't have to
make that move in the first place if you just kept Kendall Graveman on your team.
Right. So that move alone just gives them an F because it's just incomprehensible to me.
0.82 ERA for Graveman with Seattle before being dealt to Houston for, I believe it was Abraham Toro who went in that deal, and Joe Smith, who's like 100 years old. Smith. Very weird trade. And then they made an acquisition of Tyler Anderson. So they are somewhat going for it, but it's like,
weird, why would you get rid of Graveman?
It's just like, is Abraham Toro that much of a need? Like, you had to trade within division and trade arguably your best overall reliever. It made no sense.
I'm also selfish here, Rich. I have Kendall Graveman on my fantasy team.
Same.
So that muddies the waters significantly for him. So
God
damn you, Jerry DiPoto. You just had to fuck it all up.
weird. Just a weird play for the Seattle Mariners. All right, let's move on to the National League. A lot more better grades here. I'm noticing that. A lot of
Smarter GMs in the NL, it seems.
Seems like that. The Dodgers, the Giants, the Cubs, again, we're drawing the line of buy and sell. The Nationals as well. We touched on the Nationals and the Cubs before and the great job they did, moving a lot of their assets around and bringing in, I would think, a great overhaul to each of their farm systems. I think I don't think they struck out, no pun intended, when trying to bring in guys like, for the Cubs' sake, Canario from the Giants in the Chris Bryant deal, which, by the way, give you a lot of credit for having Bryant go to the Giants. I mean, the trade was off. We still have the graphic, but the trade was off by the two prospects. But you having Bryant go to San Francisco, solid move on your end. And also, you weren't totally wrong with the Dodgers Nationals deal too.
Had him getting Max, and I had Keibert going.
You had two of those parts correct. I don't think anybody had Trey Turner going to the Dodgers, which I think is absurd.
Holy shit, man.
It's an embarrassment of riches.
Talk about a Godfather deal from the Dodgers making that trade. Mm-hmm. They were already one of the World Series favorites, but to me, now they're just the overwhelming favorite. Adding Max Scherzer to that rotation, which I think was a move they had to make in light of the Bauer news, because it doesn't seem like he's going to be pitching in the MLB anytime soon. But it's also a move that they had to make because they saw that the Giants were still leading the division. So they had to kind of make a move to put them back in front, which probably was the reason the Giants make the Chris Bryant deal to kind of return serve with the Dodgers.
And credit to both of those teams for making the moves they needed to make, because they are still at the top of the division. Padres, you feel for, because they were so close reportedly on Max Scherzer, and they lost out on him, so they weren't able to really bolster their rotation, which initially I think we all thought was deep, but at the end, I guess there's no such thing as a deep rotation 1 through 5. They have standouts in Darvish and Musgrove, but they kind of
remember when Blake Snell was good.
What's up?
Remember when Blake Smell? Blake Smell. He is Blake Snell this year.
I don't know if you were actually joking, but yeah, Blake Smell smells. He stinks. He's not good.
He's terrible, dude. What happened? Overrated. He fell off the radar. But one last NL West team I wanted to touch on.
Yes,
because they deserve all the criticism. The Colorado Rockies.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing? I mean, you're a terrible team. You've been terrible for a while. That's not going to change anytime soon. Mm-hmm. So in light of that, why are you holding on to Trevor Story? I just don't get it. He's going to leave, and you're going to get one single draft pick from him. It just baffles me. They don't know what the hell they're doing.
It's just a poorly run organization. It's just a poorly run organization. I just don't know if they have the right people at the helm trying to figure out what's best for this ball club. Trevor Story himself was confused to why he wasn't traded. He just didn't know. So now he's got to suffer 2 more months of misery on the Colorado Rockies. So it's so wild what's happening over there. Yeah, they get my low score as well. I wasn't as mean. I gave him a D. You gave him an F.
I think their front office is spending too much time getting high off of that legal Colorado weed.
I think so. That shit's good then in the Mile High.
With the moves they're making with that Nolan trade, I mean, that's the only reason.
And that trade is honestly going to go down as just a salary dump because they didn't really get a good haul for him.
No,
I think they could have gotten
Gomber,
a better haul.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's wild. It's absolutely wild what's happening over there in Colorado. I guess we should touch on your Mets. I mean, we didn't really, we kind of alluded to them earlier, but how did you feel overall about the Mets job at the deadline? Obviously, Javier Baez being the biggest acquisition.
Javi was a great pickup. I think also as a Mets fan, we tend to prospect hug as a popular term. Mm-hmm. And most of our prospects turn out to be shit. So Pete Crow Armstrong, he's definitely got some upside, but he's also coming off a major surgery. So who knows? He'll probably make the majors in 3-4 years, but I think that's probably outside of the Mets current window with DeGrom. So I think the win now attitude was definitely prevalent with the Mets.
Right.
I would have liked to have seen them add another piece to the bullpen, but maybe I'm just nitpicking here. But it just sucked, man, because I was happy about getting Baez, and then I get the news about DeGrom a couple hours later. So
Yes.
it's like we just can't have nice things, can we?
It's tough. It's a tough thing. You want to be happy about bringing on one of the better shortstops in the game, and then you're like, oh shit, here we go. We don't sign Rocker. DeGrom is hurt. Hey, but at least we got those black jerseys.
Oh, we got the black, back in
We
black,
got the
baby.
black jerseys. Yeah, and Cookie Carrasco's back too.
Yes, yes, he looks sharp. So
some good things. Some
you gotta
good things.
believe.
Sometimes you just got to read in between the lines.
Yep.
All righty. Well, that is it. Our grades for the deadline. Good stuff, Espo. So I think with that, I think we've touched on everything. But if you want to listen more
right?
Trade deadline, I don't know what you just said, but if we if you want to listen to more trade deadline talk as far as the Yankees are concerned, we're definitely going to talk about that later on tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time, along with my co-host Tom Waspel. You follow us at Savages Bronx on Twitter and Instagram. And our special guest, Joe Puglisi, who is a recurring guest of this very program, he's going to be our guest for tonight. And we're going to talk about the greatest Yankee trades in history in our bracket later on tonight. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Dave's Bracket on Savages Bronx, 8 p.m. Eastern time, right here on Twitch. So, Espo, we are a little bit past 7:30 p.m. on the East Coast, but it's now time to start a brand new segment. So, obviously, you have your Espo pick of the day, and I have my picks. It's called Diamonds in the Rough. For all you video game, MLB The Show, Diamond Dynasty nerds like myself. So just to get into this real quick, because I've been prefacing this segment for weeks now, but haven't pulled the trigger until tonight. MLB The Show has a segment called Diamond Dynasty. I suppose aware of it. A lot of our viewers are aware of what this is this game mode is. Basically, you have digital trading, not trading cards, but digital baseball cards that you're able to use in your game. And a lot of the guys are, they're current, they're active players. And you also have like historic players. And obviously the biggest deal is you're trying to collect the most cards that are diamonds, which are the high cards. I think it's like an 85 ranked to 99 ranked card. But what's a cool feature about MLB The Show is they have a live roster. So they'll take a card, for instance, like Aaron Judge, they'll say he's an 85 at the beginning of the season. Based on his performance, his real life performance in baseball, they'll raise his ranking during the season. So he might have been an 85 to start the season. And right now, based on his performance, he's probably like a 91 right now. Right. Jacob deGrom was a 91 starting at the season, and now he's a 96. So
I'd be very interested to see who has had the biggest leaps in their rating from start of the season to now.
Oh, 100%. And
I need a report on that, Rich.
It's and I'll get that report for you offline. But for now, for the viewers on Twitch here, we're going to get into my Diamonds in the Rough. So basically, this is for me. I'm trying to make the best picks for you to add to your fantasy. I keep saying fantasy. Your Diamond Dynasty team by going to the open marketplace, whether it's PlayStation or Xbox or whatever, and seeing what cards are the best valued picks. So I'll have a lock pick of who's going to go diamond for the week. I'll have a long shot pick of guys who could be like, maybe knocking on the door, but definitely not quite there yet. And I have my bargain pick, somebody who may go diamond within the next few weeks. That's actually a very cheap option. And again, very likely to go to that diamond level. So we're going to start off with my lock and with the help of some great images here. The actual card art from the game. We'll start off with Cody Bellinger, who's an 84 gold right now. So obviously he needs one more upgrade to get to that diamond. He was a diamond at the beginning of the season. And currently Cody Bellinger's worth here, he costs about $34.55 in stubs. That's his buy now. His sell now is $27.50. So most people, Espo, they go for the sell now because obviously it's cheaper. They'll put out a buy order for it and wait until they get the pick they want. So Cody Bellinger, who takes multiple positions, great defensively. He's been hitting the cover off the ball lately since his latest IL stint, Espo. Somebody
much needed for the Dodgers. They need him to get going. I mean, he's just stunk it up for the better part of this season. So if they can get his back going, that's absolutely huge for them and huge for your Diamond Dynasty as well.
Yes, Cody Bellinger, of course, gives you that eligibility, all 3 outfield spots and first base. So that's a lot of good value right there. Next, my bargain pick, Anthony DeSclafani, who's the second best pitcher on the San Francisco Giants. Kevin Gausman had already gone diamond earlier in the year, but DeSclafani's stat line right behind, he's like right behind him there too. Sub 4 ERA for DeSclafani, which, you could say is kind of consistent, but this year, .310 ERA, 10-5 on the season. He struck out 113. He's definitely on pace to blow past his 167 in 2019 with the Reds. DeSclafani, currently he is worth over 1,147 at a buy now, but his sell now is 350 stubs. So very cheap. Definitely worth a few buys. He's a guy, again, I would say by the end of this month is somebody who's going to go diamond if he keeps it consistently. So I would say buy a few DeSclafanis if you can.
His value just went up in my book. Do you know why?
Why?
I just searched his profile. He is from Freehold, New Jersey.
There you go. Another New Jersey. We love that. Always love the support for a New Jersey native. And my last pick, the long shot. And honestly, really shouldn't be a long shot, and more because he's a silver card. But he is the American League Pitcher of the Month, Jameson Taillon, who's a 78 right now. Definitely going to go gold by the end of the week. Taillon currently worth 677 as a buy now. His sell now is a 397. I would buy a shit ton of this guy. I mean, if I was a smart investor in MLB The Show, Jameson Taillon's a guy that I'd buy 20 of them. Again, I say long shot more to become a diamond because, again, he had a slow start to his season. I don't know if the overall numbers are going to launch him to that 85 threshold that he needs to be at to be a diamond player. But he's definitely a guy who's going to go gold, especially after the last month he has. But hell, if he keeps going on that tear and he keeps it up, maybe by September you can see this guy hit diamond alongside Garrett Cole, who's already a diamond. He's been a diamond all season. But yeah, Jameson Taillon, my long shot pick.
You know what his ERA was for the month of July, Rich?
Go for it.
1.16. Ain't that beautiful?
I love it. Love to hear it for the deal the Yankees made with the Pirates in the offseason, the hate the team got instead of why didn't they re-sign Tanaka? They should have just brought back Tank, and Taillon's been really turning some heads. So I'm happy for Jameson. He's a guy that Garrett Cole wanted on this team, his former teammate with the Pirates. So happy to see Taillon do good things with his team finally, and hopefully he keeps that going. And hopefully he's a diamond for you Diamond Dynasty owners. And that is my Diamonds in the Rough.
The diamond segment, Rich. Beautiful.
Diamond segment. I like it.
Well done.
Love it. Look like a real diamond cutter. Yeah, I put these glasses on. And next time I'll put these glasses on and I'll do it. I'll be like, I'll look like a real diamond cutter.
You're in the diamond district in Midtown now, huh?
Real Adam Sandler over here. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for tonight's show. We're not going to see you next week. As I mentioned before, there won't be a show next week. So we'll see you in 2 weeks' time on August the 16th for episode number 20, big number 20, ESPO. And anybody you'd like to thank before we let you all go for the next two?
I would like to thank the Miami Marlins for getting the ESPO TD off to a good start. They just hit a grand slam in the first inning.
Yes, ESPO's halfway there. He's halfway there. The Mets suck, but he's halfway there. Let's go.
The sky is falling, Rich.
Fuck yeah. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. ESPO might get a pick of the day, right? Unless the Mets lose 4-0 tonight.
I don't even want to think about it, Rich.
Fantastic. Want to thank my fam as always for all the love and support. Want to thank you, ESPO, for being a great co-host as always.
Thank
I
you,
want to thank all my Twitch viewers and our supporters and our followers and our YouTube subscribers. And hey, make sure to tell your friends about Leading Off, 7 p.m. Eastern time every Monday, except for next Monday. Just tell them not next Monday, following Monday. And yeah, we'll see you here to talk more baseball in 2 weeks' time right here on Leading Off. Take care.